Hi, as you can see, I'm in the forest again today, and not despite the fact that it's snowing, but because the fact that it's snowing, I'm in the forest. So I came out to get some snow shots, and the sky it looks like it's really going to snow today. The sky is very overcast. It's coming down, but not very heavy, and the light is great. So let's get cracking. Well, as you can see, the sun has come out and it's really bright. So I'm taking a photograph of the scene in front of me here, and it's just a path going into the forest, but it's shooting directly into the sun. And I've got it on ISO 100 and I'm shooting at 1/30th of a second at f13, and that's me overexposing by one stop, because as we know, when you're shooting in snow the camera is likely to underexpose, so I'm trying to compensate for that. And I've got the camera on a tripod, and the reason I'm not showing you the shot right now is because if I turn the camera around I'll be just a silhouette and I don't want to blur it all out, so I'll turn the camera around now and let you see what I'm shooting. So this is the scene that I'm shooting. Really a nice scene, but extremely bright. So we'll take the shot and then we'll pop it up on the screen to let you see. Okay, so I've set up a shot behind me, and I'm using the fallen tree, the birch tree there in the foreground, and the exposure is f11 at 1/25th of a second, and I'm focused on the birch tree in the foreground, and everything behind me should be sharp. Now I've set the lens at 35 millimeters on this 24 to 105. So combination of f11 and at 35 millimeters focal length should give me plenty of depth of field. So let me just trigger the shutter, if I can find my remote, and take the shot. Again, I've overexposed by about a stop, and I'm not clipping any highlights or anything, so I'm quite confident that I've got a good shot. Sorry, just got distracted. I just seen a fox run across the path there. So hopefully we got the shot, and I'll pop it up at the end of the video. Okay, so as you can see behind me there's a stack of wood, and so it's got the layers, it's got the snow on top, it's got the moss, and it's got the wood itself. Just makes for a very nice photograph. Now I'm going to take two shots here. One I'm going to take of the whole stack of wood, and which I think will be a nice shot in itself, but it's always a good idea to maybe take one or two different shots of the same subject, because I think a much closer shot will be even better than the whole stack of wood. The whole stack of wood gives you the overall picture, but if you want to really zoom in and get detail, then we'll move closer, or we'll just zoom in and take the shot. And when I zoom in, I don't know for sure, but I suspect that a portrait shot will work much better. Portrait format will work much better. So let's take a couple of shots, and again we'll pop these up at the end of the video. Okay, so I took several shots in both landscape and portrait format, and I think the landscape close-up shot is the nicer shot actually. But the interesting part is the closer I zoomed in, the more of the wood was in the shot. Therefore the exposure changed dramatically. I actually had to underexpose slightly and not overexpose, just to keep the dark parts of the wood dark. So what I did is I exposed up to the point where I could save the highlights but still kept the shadows and the detail in the shadows. So that's an important point to recognise. When you change the setup and change the orientation of the shot, the exposure might change depending on what's in the shot. Okay, so I've come across this little stream, a little waterfall, tiny, very small, but it's a nice scene. Shows the forest as it is in the winter, which is important. It's not all sunshine and flowers, you know. And this is probably as high as this little stream will get because of all the meltwater through the year. So this is as good a chance as I'm likely to get to take this photograph. So I'll just bring the camera a little bit closer and try and explain what I'm doing. So let me get the camera, I'll bring it down here. Okay, so this is very similar to the viewpoint that I'm using to take the shot, but I'm currently set up at f11 at 1/6 of a second, so 1/6 of a second will be enough to blur that water just a little. It's not running that fast, so it's not going to be really blurry, but you can see the snow is falling off the trees. It's just melting. It's really in thaw now. So I'll just use my hand here. So I focused on this little part of the grass here, just where my finger is. That's my focal point. And then anything beyond that at f11 should be sharp, but I'm not totally convinced of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus slightly further into the shot, past this little rock here, or on that little rock there, which is probably only about a foot beyond the little piece of grass, but that foot can make all the difference. Okay, so I've come across this scene, and it's a lake, a small pond, and then there's a field full of snow, and there's a hut at the top. But what got my attention was this fallen tree. All three main branches of this tree have broken and fallen into the pond. Now I suspect that either something's crashed into the tree, which is unlikely considering where it is, or the wind has come through these trees here, this opening, and literally blown it over, which is probably more likely. So I'll set up the shot, and then I'll set up the camera in a different position, and then we'll put the shot up finally at the end of the video. Okay, so I'm setting this shot up so that I'm using the rule of thirds, so that the house is on that little building up there is right on that point, and using the rule of thirds. I've got the foreground that I want, and exposure is pretty good. I've overexposed by about a stop, and all I need to do is take the shot. I'm using f11 at 1/50th of a second. So grab my little trigger and take the shot. And that's it. So this is the shot basically that I'm looking at, and I've got the camera that I'm taking the image with set to about 65 mil. So this is the image, and this is roughly the shot that I was going for. So that's roughly the shot that I've been going for at 60. We won't get it on this camera because this is a 17-40 lens, but that's kind of what I'm looking at, and I hope I got the shot. I'm pretty sure I did. So let's put up some shots to let you see them. So what I liked about this shot was the branches in the foreground here, and they were all covered in snow. I know that the background is a bit messy, however it just shows you what the forest is like in the winter. So what I liked about this shot was the layers. It was the snow on top, then the moss, and then the wood itself, and it just makes real nice contrast, and there's lots of details here. So when we zoom in, we get to see those details, and I think overall the closer shot is a nicer shot. So that's the one out of the two that I like the best. Okay, so here's the two shots that I took. Now remember, the only thing that's changed is the focal point. The focal point in the first image is the grass in the left hand corner there, and the focal point or the point of focus in the second shot is the little rock in the centre, and obviously between the shots the lights change. There is no sunlight shining directly on the area in the second shot, but I still think the second shot is a much nicer shot. It's much sharper, and it just makes for a better shot, and it shows you the difference that changing the focal point has made to the overall image. It is much sharper. Okay, so this is the last shot of the day, and I liked the way the branches they had fallen into the pond. However, they almost were pointing at the little wooden hut on the crest of the hill there, and the position of the hut in the shot using the rule of thirds works quite well. However, there was other shots within this scene, and so I zoomed in and got a shot. Actually, I didn't zoom in, I cropped it just to show the hut with the tree on the left, and totally took away the tree in the foreground, but I don't think that works particularly well really. And the last shot is the one with portrait format, and that works very well, I feel. You've got the trees that have fallen into the water and they're frozen over, and they're pointing at the hut, and because of the narrow width of the portrait format, you don't see the trees on the other side, on the right hand side of the screen. So I think this works better than the other two, and that's the one I would go with, I think, if I had to make a decision as to one of the three of those shots. So if you've found this video helpful, if you've enjoyed it, if you've managed to get this far, please like and subscribe, and see you again next time. Thanks very much, and bye bye.